Good morning. Today I will use my another facial mask from Nature Republic, Real Nature Mask Sea Butter. And while discussing about ballet, you already see me do ballet practice a little bit. Now it's time to discuss ballet theory. I will read some article from internet for you. We will learn together about ballet. We will become not only healthy because we learn ballet practice, but we will become smarter by knowing more information about ballet. Okay? I will throw away this one. And let's start talking. I will open Wikipedia first. Ballet is a type of performance dance that originated during the Italian Renaissance in the 15th century and later developed into a concert dance form in France and Russia. It has since become a widespread and highly technical form of dance with its own vocabulary. Ballet has been influential globally and has defined the foundational techniques which are used in many other dance genres and cultures. Various schools around the world have incorporated their own cultures. As a result, ballet has evolved in distinct ways. A ballet as a unified work comprises the choreography and music for a ballet production. Ballets are choreographed and performed by trained ballet dancers. Traditional classical ballets are usually performed with classical music accompaniment to use elaborate costumes and staging, whereas modern ballets are often performed in simple costumes and without elaborate sets or scenery. Ballet is a French word which had its origin in Italian balletto, a diminutive of ballo or dance, which comes from Latin ballo, ballare, meaning to dance, which in turn comes from the Greek ballizo, to dance or to jump about. The word came into English usage from the France around 1630. Ballet originated in the Italian Renaissance courts of the 15th and 16th century. Under Catherine de Medici's influence as queen, it spread to France, where it developed even further. The dancers in these early court ballets were mostly noble amateurs. Ornamented costumes were meant to impress viewers. but they restricted performers' freedom of movement. The ballets were performed in large chambers with fewer or three sides. The implementation of the proscenium arts from 1618 on distanced performers from audience members who could then better view and appreciate the technical feats of the professional dancers in the production. French court ballet reached its height under the reign of King Louis XVI. 14. Sorry. Louis founded the Académie Royale Royal Dance Academy in 1661 to establish standards and certify dance instructors. In 1672, Louis XIV met Jean Baptiste Lully, the director of the Académie Royale de Musique or Paris Opera, from which the first professional ballet company, the Paris Opera Ballet, arose. Pierre Bucquom served as Lully ballet master. Together, their partnership would drastically influence the development of ballet, as evidenced by the credit given to them for the creation of the five major positions of the feet. By 1681, the first ballerinas took the stage following years of training at the academy. Ballet started to decline in France after 1830, but it continued to develop in Denmark, Italy, and Russia. The arrival in Europe of the ballet races, led by Sergei Diaghilev on the eve of the First World War, revived interest in the ballet and started the modern era. In the 20th century, ballet had a wide influence on other dance genres. Also in the 20th century, ballet took a turn dividing it from classical ballet to the introduction of modern dance, leading to the modernist movement in several countries. Famous dancers of the 20th century include Anna Pavlova, Galina Ulanova, Rudolf Nureyev, Maya Pilsikaya, Margot Fonteyn, Rosella Hightower, Maria Talchev, Eric Brun, Mikhail Baryshnikov, Suzanne Farrell, Gail Kirkland, Natalia Makarova, Arthur Mitchell, and Jean Defro. Jean Defro performed as prima ballerina for 3 decades and set a world records by being able to execute 16 triple fouets. Stylistic variations and subgenres have evolved over time. Early classical variations are primarily associated with geographic origin. Examples of these are Russian ballet, French ballet, and Italian ballet. Later variations such as contemporary ballet and neoclassical ballet incorporate both classical ballet and non-traditional technique and movement. Perhaps the most widely known and performed ballet style is late Romantic ballet or ballet blanc. Classical ballet is based on traditional ballet technique and vocabulary. Different styles have emerged in different countries, such as French ballet, Italian ballet, English ballet, and Russian ballet. Several of the classical ballet styles are associated with specific training methods, typically named after their creators. The Royal Academy of Dance Method is a ballet technique and training system that was founded by a diverse group of ballet dancers. They merged their respective dance methods, Italian, French, Danish, and Russian, to create a new style of ballet that is unique to the organization and is recognized internationally as the English style of ballet. Some examples of classical ballet production are Swan Lake, The Sleeping Beauty, and The Nutcracker. Romantic ballet was an artistic movement of classical ballet, and several productions remain in the classical repertoire today. The Romantic era was marked by the emergence of pointe work, the dominance of female dancers, and longer, flowy tutus that attempt to exemplify softness and a delicate aura. This movement occurred during the early to mid-19th century. and featured themes that emphasize intense emotion as a source of artistic experience. The plots of many romantic ballets revolve around spirit women who enslave the hearts and senses of mortal men. The 1827 ballet La Sylphe is widely considered to be the first, and the 1870 ballet Coppelia is considered to be the last. Famous ballet dancers of the Romantic era include Mary Taglioni, Fanny Alcer, and Jules Ferrer. Jules Ferrer is also known for his choreography, especially that of Giselle, often considered to be the most widely celebrated romantic ballet. Neoclassical ballet is usually abstract, with no clear plot, costumes, or scenery. Music choice can be diverse and will often include music that is also neoclassical. Tim Skoll, author of From Petit Pas to Balanchine, considers George Balanchine's Apollo in 1928 to be the first neoclassical ballet. Apollo represented a return to form in response to Sergei Diaghilev's abstract ballet. Balanchine worked with modern dance choreographer Martha Graham and brought modern dancers into his company such as Paul Taylor, who is in 1959 performed in Balanchine's episodes. While Balanchine is widely considered the face of neoclassical ballet, there was others who made significant contributions. Frederick Aston's Symphonic Variations is a seminal work for the choreographer. Set to César Frank's score of the same title, it is a pure dance interpretation of the score. Another form, modern ballet, also emerged as an offshoot of neoclassicism. Among the innovators in this form were Glenn Tetley, Robert Joffrey, and Gerard Arpino. While difficult is to parse modern ballet from neoclassicism, the work of these choreographers suffered a greater aestheticism that departed from the delicacy of ballet. The physicality was more daring, with mood, subject matters, and music more intense. An example of this would be Geoffrey Astarte, which featured a rock score and sexual overtones in the choreography. This ballet style is often performed barefoot. Contemporary ballet may include mime and acting, and are usually set to music. It can be difficult to differentiate this form from neoclassical or modern ballet. Contemporary ballet is also close to contemporary dance because many contemporary ballet concepts come from the ideas and innovation of 20th century modern dance, including floor work and turn-in of the legs. The main distinction is that ballet technique is essential to perform a contemporary ballet. Just Balanchine is considered to have been a pioneer of contemporary ballet. Another early contemporary ballet choreographer, Tuila Tarp, choreographed Puss Comes to Shove for the American Ballet Theatre in 1976 and in 1986 created in the upper room for her own company. Both of these pieces were considered innovative for their melding of distinctly modern movements with the use of pointed shoes and classically trained dancers. Today, there are many contemporary ballet companies and choreographers. These include Alonso King and his company Lance Ballet, Matthew Bourne and his company New Adventures, Complexions Contemporary Ballet, Naco Duato and his Compagnia Nacional de Danza, William Forster and the Forster Company, Jerry Killian of the Netherlands Dance Theatre. Traditionally, classical companies such as the Mariinsky Kirov Ballet and the Appari Opera Ballet also regularly perform contemporary works. The term ballet has evolved to include all forms associated with it. Someone training as a ballet dancer will now be expected to perform neoclassical, modern, and contemporary work. A ballet dancer is expected to be able to be stately and regal for classical work, free and lyrical in neoclassical work, and unassuming, harsh or pedestrian for modern and contemporary work. In addition, there are several modern varieties of dance that fuse classical ballet technique with contemporary dance, such as hiblet that require dancers to be practiced in non-Western dancing styles. There are six widely used, internationally recognized methods to teach or study ballet. These methods are the French school, the Vaganova method, the Cesotti method, the Bournonville method, the Royal Academy of Dance method, and the Balancing method. Many more schools of technique exist in various countries. Although preschool-age children are a lucrative source of income for a ballet studio, ballet instruction is generally not appropriate for young children. Initial instruction requires standing still and concentrating on posture rather than dancing. Because of this, many ballet programs have historically not accepted students until approximately age 8. Creative movement and non-demanding pre-ballet classes are recommended as alternative for children. The French method is the basis of all ballet training. When Louis XIV created the Académie Royale de Danse in 1661, he helped to create the codified techniques still used by those in the profession, regardless of what method of training they adhered to. The French school was particularly revitalized under Rudolf Nureyev in the 1980s. His influence revitalized and renewed appreciation for the style, and has drastically shaped ballet as a whole. In fact, the French school is now sometimes referred to as Nureyev school. The French method is often characterized by technical precision, fluidity and gracefulness, and elegant clean lines. For this style, fast footwork is often utilized in order to give the impression that the performers are drifting lightly across the stage. Two important trademarks of this technique are the specific way in which the pas de bras and the epaulement are performed, more rounded than when dancing in a Russian style, but not as rounded as the Danish style. The Vaganova method is a style of ballet training that emerged from Russian ballet, created by Akribina Vaganova. After retiring from dance in 1916, Vaganova turned to teaching at the Leningrad Choreographic School in 1921. Her training method is now internationally recognized, and her book, The Fundamental of Classic Dance, is a classic reference. This method is marked by the fusion of the classical French style, specifically elements from the Romantic era, with the athleticism of the Italian method and the soulful passion of Russian ballet. She developed an extremely precise method of instruction in her book Basic Principles of Russian Classical Dance. This includes outlining when to teach technical component to students in their ballet careers, for how long to focus on it, and the right amount of focus at each stage of the student's career. This textbook continues to be extremely important to the instruction of ballet today. The method emphasizes development of strength, flexibility, and endurance for the proper performance of ballet. She espoused the belief that equal importance should be placed on the arms and legs while performing ballet, as this will bring harmony and greater expression to the body as a whole. Developed by Enrico Cecchetti, This method is one known internationally for its intense reliance of the understanding of anatomy as it relates to classical ballet. The goal of this method is to instill important characteristics for the performance of ballet into students so that they do not need to rely on imitation of teachers. Important components for this method is the emphasis of balance, elevations, balance, poise, and strength. This method espouses the importance of recognizing that all parts of the body move together to create beautiful, graceful lines, and as such cautions against thinking of ballet in terms of the arms, legs, and neck and torso as separate parts. This method is well known for eight pot de bras that are utilized. The Bournonville method is a Danish method first devised by Auguste Bournonville. Bournonville was heavily influenced by the early French ballet method due to his training with his father Antoine Bournonville and other important French ballet masters. This method has many style differences that differentiate it from other ballet methods taught today. A key component is the use of diagonal epaulements, with the upper body turning towards the working foot typically. This method also incorporates very basic use of arms, pirouettes from a low developed position into second, and use the fifth position bras and bars for the beginning and end of movements. The Bournonville method produces dancers who have beautiful ball. The Royal Academy of Dance Method. The Royal Academy of Dance Method, also referred to as the English style on ballet, was established in 1920 by Jean Carsavina, Bedels, Espinosa, and Richardson. The goal of this method is to promote academic training in classical ballet throughout Great Britain. This style also spread to the United States and is widely utilized till today. There are specific grade levels which a student must move through in order to complete training in this method. The key principle behind this method of instruction is that basic ballet technique must be taught at a slow pace, with difficulty progression often much slower than the rest of the methods. The idea behind this is if a student is to put in a large amount of effort into perfecting the basic steps, the technique learned in these steps allow a student to utilize harder ones at a much easier rate. Developed by George Balanchine at the New York City Ballet. His methods draw heavily on his own training as a dancer in Russia. The technique is known for extreme speed throughout routines, emphasis on lines, and deep pliés. Perhaps one of the most well-known differences of this style is the unorthodox positioning of the body. Dancers of this style often have flexed hands and even feet, and are placed in off-balance positions. Important ballet studios teaching this method are the Miami City Ballet, Ballet Chicago Studio Company, and the School of American Ballet in New York. Ballet costumes play an important role in the ballet community. They are often the only survival of a production representing a living imaginary picture of the scene. The roots of ballet go back to the Renaissance in France and Italy, when court wear was the beginning of ballet costumes. Ballet costumes have been around since the early of 15th century. Cotton and silk were mixed with flax, woven into semi-transparent gauze to create exquisite ballet costumes. During the 17th century, different types of fabrics and design were used to make costumes more spectacular and eye-catching. Court dress still remained for women during this century. Silk, satins, and fabrics embroidered with real gold and precious stones increased the level of spectacular decoration associated with ballet costumes. Women's costumes also consisted of heavy garments and knee-long skirts which made it difficult for them to create mass movement and gesture. During the 18th century, stage costumes were still very similar to court wear but progressed over time, mostly due to the French dancer and ballet master Jean Nouveau, whose proposal to modernize ballet are contained in his revolutionary Lettres sur la danse et le ballet. Nouveau book altered the emphasis in a production away from the costumes toward the physical movement and emotion of the dancer. European ballet was centered in the Paris Opera. During this era, skirts were raised a few inches off the ground. Flowers, fronds, ribbons, and lace emphasized this opulent feminine style, as soft pastel tones in citron, peach, pink, and pistachio dominated the color range. During the early 19th century, close-fitting body costumes, floral crowns, corsets, and jewels were used. Ideals of romanticism were reflected through female movements. Costume became much tighter as corsets started to come into use to show off the curves on a ballerina, and bedazzled costumes became much more popular. Professional dancers are generally not well paid and earn less money than a typical worker. As of 2020, American dancers were paid an average USD 19 per hour, with pay somewhat better for teachers than for performers. The job outlook is not strong, and the competition to get a job is intense, with the number of applicants vastly exceeding the number of job openings. Most jobs involve teaching in private dance school. Choreographers are paid better than dancers. Musicians and singers are paid better per hour than either dancers or choreographers, about US 30 per hour. However, full-time work is unusual for musicians. Teenage girl ballet dancers are prone to stress fractures in the first rib. Posterior ankle impingement syndrome most commonly affects people who perform repetitive plantar flexion, such as ballet dancers. Eating disorders are thought to be common, and a 2014 meta-analysis suggests that studios do indicate that ballet dancers are at higher risk than the general population for several kinds of eating disorder. In addition, some researchers have noted that intensive training in ballet results in lower bone mineral density in the arms. Most ballet choreography is written so that it can only be performed by a relatively young dancer. The structure of ballet in which a male choreographer or director uses women's bodies to express his artistic vision has been criticized as a harming women. Okay, that's it for today. We already learning about ballet. Let's learn about yoga tomorrow. But I will do another video today, makeup video. So if you want to watch me, don't miss my video, okay? I will wait until it's dry, and then I will start to apply makeup on my face, and I will go outside and photocopy and like giving brochures to many people so I can have models for my makeup job, makeup artist profession. I'm still beginner, I'm still learning, so wish me luck. Okay, Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Even you don't listen to me, I think that it is form of practice of speaking English. So it doesn't matter if people care about me or not. Okay? See ya.